Hello viewers, you are watching QTV, the Gambia's first private TV station, and we are broadcasting from our studios here on Karaba Avenue. My name is Alagie, and this is your one-to-one interview. Well, in 2017, the Barrow-led government instituted a commission of inquiry into the financial dealings of former President Yahya Jammeh and his close associates. Well, one man whose name came to national prominence is former Secretary Alagie Kurang, the Nyamine-Kudang-born economist. Mr. Kurang, good to have you on this one-to-one interview.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cisse. Appreciate the invitation and looking forward to a fruitful discussion.
Well, one will say after 4 years or 5 years since, the end of the Jammeh Commission, could you just tell us, how you get the job to be the Secretary of the Jammeh Commission?
Oh, well, I was invited by the then Minister of Justice, and he told me that they are looking for somebody with a certain profile, which is somebody who has worked in the Jammeh government and has got a knowledge of finance. I was an economist and I'm also a chartered accountant. And also because secretarial job involves setting up the infrastructure that forms the background or the back office of the commission. And he told me, because I've been in that kind of environment, I'm a systems accountant, I've set up a business, Jollof Tutors, I do consultancy, I help other people set up businesses. So it was assumed that it would be quite easy for me to go there and do the setup for things to run smoothly. So I think on that basis, I was invited.
And after setting up, what was your role as the Secretary to the Commission?
Well, the role of the Secretary is, there are different roles that you do, because when you're sworn in, you're basically the custodian of information that is coming in from the public, from the government, from the witnesses. Obviously, you work with a team of staff. You also sit with the commissioners and take minutes of meetings of the commissioners. You are also the liaison between the commissioners and the lawyers that are assisting the commission. You also become the liaison between the commission and the government, and obviously between the commission and the witnesses, the lawyers of the witnesses. So anybody that wants to interact with the commissioners goes through you. So, and then obviously if there are orders made by the commission, they need to be executed. The Secretariat becomes the executive arm of the commission, and if you are the head of the Secretariat, then you are responsible.
And what were your expectations of the job?
All my expectations of the job, obviously, when you are called and invited and you're sworn in, you obviously know that this is a national duty, and obviously knowing the task that was ahead of us to investigate the former president, his close associates, his family, etc., in their financial dealings with state enterprises, with the government, etc. You know that this is an unprecedented. You're probably involved in a financial investigation that has never happened in this country. The magnitude, 22 years, knowing what the former government has been involved in transaction-wise. So when you're appointed, obviously you're expecting that this is going to be very tasking, this is going to be very challenging, and as an accountant, this is going to be exciting to try to follow money and know where it goes and what happens to it, etc. So my expectations was that I was going to be involved in something very significant in the history of the country.
And at what point did things begin to go wrong? Because we know you didn't serve for the end of the commission.
Yeah, I served for 1 year. Okay. And obviously, I think I've said it in so many interviews that things went wrong when it came to executing some of the orders that the commission themselves have given, particularly pertaining to the assets of the former president.
Could you elaborate? What went wrong?
What went wrong?
What were the directives given? Or what did you saw that you felt wasn't right?
Yeah, well, you see, when you're sworn in, you're sworn in to be loyal and to the country, to the state, to the people, not necessarily to any individual interests or party interests, etc. So if you ask me what went wrong, I would say I think what went wrong was when at the point at which there was interference, political and otherwise, in the work of the commission. I think that's when things started, turning around for me.
Who did what? You're talking about interference. I mean, it's about transparency. Who did what?
Well, you see, what we had was we had several. The commission was overseeing the investigation of the assets of the former president, and through that, the commission had issued several orders about what needs to be done, with regard to, for example, the vehicles, the cattle, etc., the inventories, and so on. And we were directed to conduct certain activities with regard to taking stock, and executing some of the orders that the commission has instructed us to do. And I was leading the team. And I think if you ask me what happened, I would say yes. Along that work, we discovered that there were vested interests. I mean, that were contrary to the objectives of the principles of good governance and investigation. Yeah.
And you're talking about that conflict of interest. Who was conflicted?
Who was conflicted? I think there are a whole lot of people, that are conflicted, and you could go on. And I'm not here to say so and so is conflicted, because these are legal matters. But you see, there's some things that are so obvious, and I know for some of them we cannot avoid saying, yeah, so and so did this, because they are public officials. All right. It was the president, obviously, that terminated I was told, okay. Somebody wrote the letter and said the president said your services are not needed anymore.
So you didn't resign?
Yes, I received that letter that the president said my services are not needed anymore. But when you ask me who is conflicted, you see, it's for the public to judge, for us to give the facts and the circumstances. I had wrote a petition at that moment that came to public and everybody read it. But you see, as recently as last week, there was an article by a famous investigative journalist, Swandi Dabo, and he wrote about the planes of Yahya Jammeh, the aeroplanes. What happened to the aeroplanes of Yahya Jammeh? This was one of the things that were being investigated by the commission. And I had a personal story related to that, because, you see, when we were in the commission, as the secretary, I told you I'm the link between the government and the commission. So we were sitting in the commission and we saw an advertisement in the newspaper. I think every Gambian saw it who is watching this program, that some of the luxury vehicles of Yahya Jammeh were being put on sale. And I was asked by the commission at that time to find out who was the person behind the selling of these. And we saw that the advertisement was done by the Ministry of Finance. Now, you could see the Ministry of Finance is mentioned in Swandi's investigation, but I'm just giving you a related story. I was asked by the commissioners to write to the Ministry of Finance and ask the minister why they want to sell some of these vehicles while they are still under investigation. I wrote a letter to the ministry and there was no response. Then after 2 weeks or so, the commissioners asked me to write a reminder. I wrote a reminder. These are documented. You see, when things are documented, I can say it very plainly. I wrote a second reminder to the minister's office. There was none. No response then. And then the commissioners asked me to go to the ministry and find out by myself personally, why there was no response to our inquiry as to who was trying to sell the luxury vehicles from the ministry and why they want to sell it when they're still under investigation. I happened to find out that the minister had traveled. So I spoke to a senior official of the ministry. And what he told me then, was that, you see, I think the minister is advised by a certain lawyer in the commission.
And it's not the current minister?
No. Who is the current minister?
Sidiketa.
Oh, no, he just came. Okay. This was in 2017, 18. Okay. Yeah, that's it. That's the time. So that's what the senior official told me, that the minister is in touch with lawyers from the commission, and they advised him to go ahead and do this. So I came back to the commission. That was a bit of a surprise, because if the commission is asking me to find out who wants to sell the vehicles while they are under investigation, and I go to the ministry, I didn't mean the minister, but a senior officer tell me the minister is in line with the lawyers, this becomes confusing. Yeah. So this is an example. But you see, that story for me, it stops there, because I think it was a dead end at that time. Now, last week, there was a story in the newspapers that the investigative journalist, Mr. Dabo, right, came up and said that the aeroplanes, you know, in a similar pattern to that were sold, they were recommended. The commission recommended for the aeroplanes to be sold. But by the time the recommendation of the commission comes out, they have already been sold. And the only person who could answer that was the ministry. So you see the aeroplanes and the luxury vehicles, the same pattern. While the commission is investigating, the commission didn't even know that somebody right in the ministry is selling the assets. So if you ask me, right, who is responsible, I'll tell you, go and find out who are the ministers at that point in time, and maybe you will have an idea.
In one of your interviews, you claimed that your dismissal from the commission probably cost the country almost $500 million. How could you have this dismissal, led to such a huge loss for the state?
Yes, it could have. It could even be more. Okay. Because, yes, when I said that statement, I said it because I explained the circumstances in the interview. Okay. That we were running the disposal of the assets in a systematic manner that was described by the commission, which was open, transparent auction, well advertised, well attended, and very transparent. We started that process. People put spanners in the works. So in the end, obviously, they succeeded in stopping it. They succeeded in getting me out of the commission. And then when I'm out, we saw what happened later. These assets, you have to look at the proportionate value of assets. 500 to 600 tractors, hundreds of vehicles, including some luxury vehicles. We're talking about hundreds of fixed landed properties that are very valuable. How much are they valued? So that was just a rough estimate. Yes, I did say that the tractors could have earned at least $200 million, and that's logical.
How did you get to that conclusion that the tractors could have earned us $200 million?
Yes, by first-hand experience. Okay. By first-hand experience. I give an example. I said, when we did the auction for 10% of the tractors, we sold a particular tractor for $1.2 million. One tractor. We sold a tractor for $600,000. We sold a tractor for $800,000. If you have 600 or 500 or 400 tractors, or even 200 tractors, take it. And you have done the auction in a timely, proper manner, how much would you have earned? It's simple mathematics. It's not complex. But consider one thing. When they stopped us in the process, it was in July. The rain hadn't fallen yet. The tractors they've been working already. They have got sand on them. They stayed under the rain in July. They stayed under the rain in August. They stayed under the rain in September. It was only in October, November that they came to start the process, because obviously they would have they remove an administration that was already in control and well aware and well informed and very systematic, and they brought in an administration that was not in touch. So there was a delay. The delay cost a lot of things. Some of the spare parts would have been lost. The rain has dilapidated the machines. So the value they could get because of that delay went down drastically. So logically, they lost money. In the case of the vehicles, yes, I gave examples. I said a Rolls-Royce, when I search on the internet, you can do Google now, anybody can do Google, they tell you that a Rolls-Royce has no price. The most expensive Rolls-Royce in the world today is $31 million. You could buy a Rolls-Royce for $5 million, but a Rolls-Royce has no price. But I'm just telling you that there is what is called antique, all right? Antique and assets that have got to do with legacy assets, they call them. When a president drives a vehicle anywhere in the world, that vehicle does not go cheap, even if it is scrap. Yes, even if it is. If Yahya Jammeh drives a vehicle, even if this chair that you are sitting on, right, it may be sold for 5,000, but if they tell you that it is President Jawara or President Jammeh that was sitting on this chair, somebody can buy it for $10,000. That is called legacy and antiques. In the market, this is how it works. So a Rolls-Royce, ordinary Rolls-Royce, without any interference, is not cheap. You understand? Yes, I have witnessed when somebody said that there is a man who is prepared to pay $1 million. Nobody says, well, that's the fact. It could be more than that. But I'm telling you, a Rolls-Royce has no price, particularly when that Rolls-Royce was driven by a president in the world market. The price is bound to go up.
Did anyone offer anything on the table?
Well, I don't know what you mean, but I told you what I heard. Yes. Yes, yeah. I heard somebody said, a lawyer said that people were throwing things. We were the ones in the commission. So when people are interested in things, they will say. So if somebody comes and says, somebody wants to pay $1 million, for me, if I am in charge, I will not even say I will sell it for $1 million. I would make a global, it's a global asset. Because I'm not sure, I don't think people are driving it around in the Gambia. I believe that somebody bought it outside the Gambia. So it's an international market product. So I would put it in the international market and anybody can buy it. I will not accept straight away $1 million from anybody because I know a Rolls-Royce is a Rolls-Royce. And a presidential Rolls-Royce is not just any ordinary Rolls-Royce.
So meaning some of these properties were then sold at a giveaway price?
Yeah, that's a giveaway price, and that's what people felt. If you come and say all the vehicles of Yahya Jammeh, the tractors, the Rolls-Royces, the luxury vehicles, the other scrap vehicles, they all cost $67 million, $1 million. I mean, logically, I don't see where the mathematics, the arithmetic, for me, doesn't make sense. And I think people are listening. They can make their own value judgments, whether that makes sense, right? It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, the former minister, Batambidu, was interviewed regarding your petition that was, as I understand, was an internal memo and was leaked to the media.
Yeah.
I mean, he said, I mean, your allegations were not substantiated and that you acted beyond the confines of your administrative authority, and that was why your position became untenable.
Yeah.
Do you agree with him?
5 years ago, I didn't agree with him.
Okay.
And 5 years later, I don't see anybody in this country who agrees with him. Maybe some, but most of the people don't agree because, you see, circumstance, time have taken over. People, the situation has what they call crystallized. People have seen the picture. So now that, he said that statement, I don't think he will come back and say that same statement again because people can see that some of the doubts which I have casted at that time, that the country is going to lose value, the country is going to lose money, right? It has come to take place. We have lost money on the vehicles, we've lost money on the tractors, we've lost money on the properties. And Batambidu himself knows that we lost money on the properties. Yes.
What about the cattle? Any idea?
Yeah, I mean, I did explain, that I think the report came out that they made some 6 million from the cattle. Obviously, I don't know, 6, 7 or 8 million. I'm not sure of the exact amount, but around that figure. And I did explain that if the process was, the sale was conducted systematically because the stock taking, the inventory taking was done systematically. The cattle were weighed individually, systematically. Why did we have to do that? If you have to go in a cattle field and weigh the cattle one by one, obviously your assumption is that when they are being sold, they will be sold one by value, right? I didn't think that's what happened. So in the same way, I would say, yes, they could have gotten more money.
Interesting. And then, I mean, you said, I mean, regarding recommendations, I mean, that the president promised, he will act on having, the recommendations being implemented. I mean, you talk about selective justice in the process. I mean, you said but one will say these recommendations are not binding.
Yeah. I mean, commission recommendations are never binding. It is still for the government, because the commission is not per se a court. I mean, it's not a. They said, well, it's a quasi legal judicial system, meaning that it's a combination of legal, political, and other kinds of investigative processes that makes a commission. So it's not binding as you would have a ruling from a court, but it's obviously highly, recommended for a government to follow the recommendations, unless they can point out specifically their reasons for not following those recommendations. And what the borough government, they can issue a white paper and say, well, we're going to implement this, we're going to ban Mr. X from politics, we are going to seize the assets of Mr. Y, we are going to tell Mrs. X to pay so much amount. But obviously, that is the government's own value judgment of who they want to put at task, make responsible. No, but the commission can't do anything about that. But I think that if they have no reason to reject the commission's recommendations, then they should implement the recommendations in full.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the amount recovered from the commission. I mean, when they were presenting their report to the president, the then Justice Minister Batambedu said little over $50 million was spent on just the work of the commission. Yeah. Looking at how much is being spent and how much is being recovered, do you think there was a need then to establish this commission in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, it was, I would even say, you could say it's more than 50 million. We accountants say implicit and explicit cost. Yeah. So he was talking about, Tambedu was talking about the explicit cost, what they actually spend. But there is the implicit cost, the cost which you cannot see. Right? For example, if you put officers there from the ministry or policemen, they could have been doing another job. The cost of that is implicit. So there are other implicit costs associated. So it's more than 50 million, maybe far more than that, maybe 100 million, the actual. But, is it justified? Yes, it's justified. Information has no value. And you see, people make a mistake because people think that a commission set up by borough is for borough. No. Set up by borough, yes, or the borough government, but it's for posterity. Because, 50 years later, people can come back to the same findings, governments can come back to the same findings and make recommendations of what to do. Nigerian government is following Abacha's assets as late as yesterday. So, and when did he die? He died long time ago. So when a commission recommendation comes out, first of all, the value is not in terms of the 100 million or the 50 million they spent. It's about, it has educated people, it has made people aware and understand what is happening. The report is there and it will ever be there. It can always be acted on by any other government that comes, right, in any way they want, right? And obviously, we know that what is inside there are usually facts because it was a fact-finding mission. So the value of the information, nobody can actually say how much you would pay. If I ask you, you're a government, can you pay for the value of this? I don't think anybody can easily place a value on the value of the commission. So I don't think whether it's the TRRC or the Jane Commission or the Constitutional Review Commission, I don't think any of them are useless. I think once knowledge is out, nobody can box it.
Thank you very much. That's Alagie Kurang, former secretary to the Jane Commission. Well, viewers, you're watching QTV and this is your one-to-one interview with me, Alagie. We'll go with a short break and when we return, the discussion continues. Do stay tuned.
You asked for it and QCell is giving it to you with our new and improved Sunyu Bundle Mega Promo. Now you can get more data at cheaper prices. Buy any of our bundle packages and enjoy massive discounts. Dial *303# and enjoy browsing on the network with the biggest coverage. Buy a 20 megabytes data bundle for as low as $7 and 50 bottles today, or purchase bigger bundles up to 20 gigabytes. Yes, that's right, 20 gigabytes of data at your fingertips. With our mega promo bundles, you can browse more, chat longer, and stay connected on the go, anytime, anywhere. For more information, call our customer care on 111. QCell. We innovate. Others follow. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello viewers, welcome back from that short break. You're watching QTV, the Gambia's first private TV station, and we're broadcasting from our headquarters here on Kurang Avenue. My name is Alagie, and this show one-to-one interview. Our guest this week is Alagie Kurang, who has served as the secretary to the Joint Commission, which was instituted by the Borough Administration to investigate into the financial dealings of former President Yahya Jammeh and his close associates. Yes, and then, Mr. Kurang, we talk about, lack of transparency in the ways most of these Jammeh's assets were sold. Why do you think, there was no transparency or there was no open auction for people to come and express their intent?
Yeah, I think the commission, in a way, had the intention at the beginning to do a transparent and fair process. You see, systems are only as good as the people in charge of those systems. And if the disposal of the assets was a system that the commission was not the only party, you also have the government, which is a party to what is happening. You have the Ministry of Justice, which is a party to the process. So if at some point, in any of these parties, or somebody who has influence in any of these parties, has a vested interest, right, or vested interest among them, obviously this is bound to affect the work and the transparency of the process of the commission. And I think this is exactly what happened. There were parties. We just gave examples here about the planes, the aeroplanes and the Roxy vehicles. There were parties all over who have vested interests, and the system was not able to sustain the conflicts of interest that were bearing upon it in order to remain resolute and fully transparent.
And any idea who the buyers were? Because it's not made public.
Well, I think we are all still pushing, for the government to publish the names of the buyers. They have given several excuses, and I don't think anybody has that information yet, except the government, of who the buyers of the different assets are.
The Minister of Justice, Dauda Ejalo, told lawmakers that, the full disclosure of the buyers of these assets could infringe on their privacy. Do you agree with him?
No, I don't agree with him. If you are buying a public asset, obviously you're supposed to buy it in an open auction, right? If the process of selling the asset is supposed to be an open process, an open market, open auction, obviously when you come to an open market and then you buy anything, you don't have the intention of hiding your identity. But if you buy the asset, you buy the landed property or the vehicle, under the table or behind the scenes, obviously you wouldn't want your name to come out. So the first thing is, if there was a principle, if the Minister of Justice could admit that the process of selling the assets, the landed properties, the cattle or the vehicles, was a transparent process, obviously he would admit that anybody who came there came on and subjected himself to a transparent process. I don't think that statement of invasion of privacy would have arisen. But if the system was done under the table or behind the scenes, not transparent, then obviously that's the only excuse that the minister can give, maybe.
But why do you think, they will do this in behind the scene, behind the cameras? Who do you think could be the potential buyers in this case then?
Oh, maybe you. I don't know whether you're a millionaire or so. Well, you see, why would they do it? I think it's the same questions we have for a lot of things. You see, in Jammeh's, the whole of Jammeh's investigation was about lack of transparency. If everything that Jammeh does was financially transparent, we wouldn't need an investigation. We wouldn't need a commission. Things would be under the table. It would be easy to find them. They would have been in audit reports on all the shelves everywhere. People would have known it. But this wasn't the case. So the whole reason, the whole idea behind instituting a commission to investigate the financial dealings of the ex-president was the fact that his dealings were not transparent, and they need to be transparent to hold a public hearing, because a commission is a public hearing. So now that we have the assets being disposed of this way, I think the reason why the public is so incensed and the general Gambian population cannot take it is the fact that if we say that there was lack of transparency, therefore we have to investigate Jammeh, then when we do the investigation, the outcome of that investigation and the processes of that investigation must correct the failures of the Jammeh regime, but not to repeat them or to multiply them.
In your memo, your petition, you made certain allegations that, even within the commission itself, there were people who had what you call steady attempts to negotiate the sale of former President Jammeh's asset. Didn't this in any way put the credibility of the commission at stake?
Yeah, the credibility of the commission is not as important as the interest of the country. The commission is a subject matter within the subset of the national governance structure. So the overall national overriding interest, takes precedence over anybody's interest. So yes, I was aware of people in the commission, right, who wanted some assets and had talked to me about it. And all I tell them is, if you make the rules, you play by the rules.
Who are they, and what were the assets that they were interested in, if you are comfortable?
Well, you see, yes. I gave you examples here where I knew there were letters, right? If somebody, Aliu, tells me, oh, Alagie, I want this asset, and it's not written, I cannot come on TV and say, oh, Aliu told me that he wanted the asset. Yes, but at that moment, yes, I know, and I think all the circumstances point to the fact that people were interested in the assets.
In what sort of asset? The tractors?
Yeah, the tractors, because we hadn't got into the vehicles yet. Okay. We never did any decision. It was that moment, it was decisions about the tractors. Yes, I knew people.
And what was your reaction? What was your response?
My response is, people call me, and people even call some politicians, some mayors and chairmen, and say, call Alagie and ask him about the tractors. I said, simple answer. I said, the commission has instituted a transparent process. If you are interested in a vehicle, come to the auction and bid like anybody else. There is no preferential treatment here as far as I'm concerned. And that's the same response I gave to each one of them. It was very simple, and I did it in a smiling way. But maybe they didn't take it lightly.
And how does that make you feel? Having all that praise of politicians calling, people very influential in society calling you, yet you stood your ground.
Yes, I think it's
something very, very, very rare to see.
Yeah, it's very difficult in this country to stand against vested interests. We know, we've read stories, about things happening when people stand against vested interests at that time. You could be, anything can happen to you. Obviously, losing your job, I think, was the easiest thing that can happen to you. I lost my job, but a lot of other things can happen to you. You may not even get another job. If you are doing contracts, you may not get contracts because there are people who are not maybe even the president, but they have extended arms around the country, and they can deny you a lot of opportunities. I have faced this before. I know what it means. So this is something that can signifies. I remember when we were when I got my letter from the office, they said, the president said you must go and sit down, and people tell you all kind of things. Somebody came and told me, he walks inside, and said, I think they told the president that you are a green man. Okay. You are a green, which was very funny. I've never shook the hands of the ex-Yaya Jammeh. But I'm just telling you, can be stigmatized. I think that's the problem of whistleblowing. And I think that's why a lot of people are quiet out there. They have a lot of things to say. Instead, they send it to WhatsApp groups, or they send it to some online. Instead of coming on TV and talking about it, they will send it to gossip newspapers, online. And then, because you cannot blame them. Because people know you will be victimized. You will be victimized. And it can be very serious. If you need for a professional, when you have your own profession, you can work, you can leave the country and go and work somewhere. But what about if you don't have that kind of background? It can be tough. This country can be tough.
According to the former minister, he said, you were hired to follow instruction of those above you, not to question their wisdom.
Well, I agree with the first part of the statement,
all right,
but I completely disagree with the second part. His second part lacks wisdom, right? Mm. He said, yes, I follow instructions. I did follow instructions. What they asked me to do, I did it. right? Not to question their wisdom is what he said. Well, that's not true, because if they ask me to do something which I know is not in line with the interests of the country, that's not wisdom. So he to follow their wisdom, even if it's wrong wisdom, nobody tells that to anybody. And that's why he faltered.
And where's the difference? I mean, they said Jammeh has diverted over $1 billion somewhere that could have been gone into the health education sector. Yet there's this commission here that could have at least cover most of what Jammeh is alleged to have diverted. What's the difference now, other than the information that you said we already know what transpired? What's the difference in what? In Jammeh diverting over $1 billion, and looking at the commission, all the properties that could have covered.
Yes. Well, that's why, like I said, that's why most people are concerned, because the final report of the commission says that we have lost about $300 million. $300 million obviously is a lot of billions of dollars. Some people even argue that, well, we all know that the commission did not investigate everything. Everybody knows that. Even the commission themselves would admit that they did not investigate anything. So if you investigate some and you said $300 million is what is missing, obviously, if you had investigated everything, people say it could be $1 billion.
Was it just an assumption?
Yeah, these are just assumptions. But I'm saying that the fact, there is a fact, not only assumption, there is a fact that they did not investigate everything. They did not investigate, they did not exhaust everything that Jammeh was doing. So what I'm trying to say, with regard to your question, what's the difference? I think there was no difference, because Jammeh misappropriated. So when we investigate him, we are supposed to correct what he misappropriated, to bring back money to the country to be able to pay some of the debts. For example, the tractors were bought for $6 million loan to the $6 million to the Indian government alone. We have to pay the loan, even though the tractors went like that. They only brought $1 million, in less than $1 million, because the vehicles all brought $1 million. So this is not the way to correct the system. What we would have preferred was the Jammeh Commission would have been a tool for which we would have recovered enough money, not only to pay Jammeh's debts. We have a situation of the ferries in the Gambia right now. In the Jammeh Commission, it came out that the Al Jambur and the other ferry that were acquired for millions of dollars, they were bought and they were brought to Banjul. They could not even fit into the docking, into the wharf. They were never used. Imagine that the Ports Authority bought ferries for $10 million, for example, and bring them, and they could never use them. What led to that? What are the consequences? So this was an opportunity for us to go back, recover the money, and bring it not only to pay Jammeh's debts, but also to kickstart the economy, to learn how to manage the economy well and reinvest in the economy.
So, I mean, some people are even saying, I mean, there should be another commission to even investigate the Jammeh Commission itself.
Well, that's not a decision for me. I think that is a decision for the government. It is the government that institutes commissions, and obviously before they investigate Jammeh Commission, people would like them to point out, because a commission is an open, transparent investigation. So before, yes, you can reinvestigate the Jammeh Commission, but tell us who bought the assets, and start from there. When you release that, then you can go and investigate.
Interesting. But I mean, in terms of implementing the recommendation of the Jammeh Commission, do you think the government could have done better, or are you satisfied with the level of implementation?
No, I think they could have done better. I think the government, you see, when they tell you the commission recommended this, and even before the recommendation comes out, the government decided to sell. Or, I mean, the Ministry of Finance is the government. The government decided to sell. So it means the government was not waiting for the commission to finish in order for the recommendations to be applied. So the government was, in some areas a step ahead of the commission. They were implementing and in their certain things even before the commission comes out. So yes, if they were really interested in implementing the recommendation, and they would have waited for the recommendations of the commission at that time, or get some written approvals, etc., from the commission of what they should do. But they were not waiting for that. So I think even before the commission finished, maybe the government was not interested in some of the recommendations. And then when the recommendations came also, we also, I think everybody has their opinions about the white paper and who was pardoned, who was not pardoned. I think people believe it was political and selective. So, but then there are a lot of things, other things that happen.
So what is that, you think we can learn from the Janneh Commission in terms of even its composition? You said earlier on, even within the commission, there were people who had some sort of interest in some of Jammeh's assets. The composition of the commission itself, what do you think we can learn from it moving forward in future commissions?
Yes, I think it's a very critical question of what we could do, because human nature is human nature. But I think when government is setting up a commission like that, they need to be interested. The government is genuine. They need all the arms of the government, including the parliamentary. I didn't see the commission report come to the parliament. The parliament should have had subcommittees that will call the commissioners, or whoever is the minister is responsible, to ask for explanations, in relation to other circumstances and things that they have heard from elsewhere. If some of us has protested, the parliament should have taken that up and asked it. They should not just, we leave the Minister of Justice to deal with Alagie's Mamadi's statement, of petition against the commission. What is the parliament doing? Why are they elected? They should have taken that responsibility, right? In this country, if you tell the police fall, they can only act in the instruction of the Attorney General. So obviously they have a dead end in that side. But the parliament does not have that restriction. So I think even when the commission is being set up, the bill to set up the commission had to go to parliament. So is it only the bill that should go to parliament? The report should go to parliament. It should be scrutinized. The circumstances around the report should be scrutinized.
Because it was set by an act of parliament.
Exactly. It's an act of parliament. The white paper should be scrutinized. So I didn't see this process, within the parliamentary arm, right, the lawmaking arm of the government. So I think, yes, human beings, when you set up a commission, you have to know that systems are only as good as the people in charge. Therefore, we must always have countermeasures, either at the executive level. The government should have been more interested at the parliamentary level, judicial level, or whatever level we have, to make sure that there are checks and balances. You don't just set up a commission and then you have maybe a commission or a lawyer in the commission becomes even more powerful than the president. That's a mistake. That can only happen because the government, the system, the parliamentary system, the governance system that we have was not, did not meet the expectations of the people.
Well, I understand we're running out of time. Just finally, your final message on the Janneh Commission generally, and your message to Gambians.
I think I thank you very much for the invitation, and I think it's an opportunity. Gambians should keep being interested in where their money has gone to. People should acquire the report of the commission and read it and digest it and understand for future references, because these issues will keep coming up. A commission that investigated parastatals, and those parastatals are still failing. They are not delivering their ferry service. They are not delivering telecommunication. They are not delivering a lot of things. And we have invested every year. The government takes about $7 billion to be able to take care of the debts. And most of these debts are coming from these parastatals and government organizations. So the people must know. Well, you can think that you can go and sit there and say, well, the Janneh Commission is done and then we forget about it, was a bad thing. Now, there's a lot of facts that have come out. If you're a politician or you're a parliamentarian, you should be interested, and you should keep being interested. If you're an ordinary citizen, you should keep being interested, because these things will impact you. You might be a dock worker in the ports, but you may not know, right, the circumstances that is leading to the bad situation of what is already happening. So I'm telling Gambians that transparency is not a dead and one-end thing. It's not a one-time election thing. It is a continuous process of trying to get the nation to where we want to get it to.
Thank you very much, Alagie Mamadi
Kurang,
former secretary to the Janneh Commission. It was good to have you on this one-to-one interview. Well, viewers, with that, we bring an end to this edition of your one-to-one interview. I was your host, Alagie. Do join us next time. Until then, bye-bye from me and the entire team. Bye-bye.